Welcome back to the Word Expanded, the Gospels. Hey, we're in the book of Matthew. We just got done looking at Matthew chapter 2, verses 13 through 18. Verses 13 through 18, we talked about the fury of the enemy and how God doesn't always stop the fury of the enemy. But sometimes what he does is he protects us in it, or he tells us to flee from it. Get out of there. The enemy's about to lose it. Go crazy, right? I know this happens in schools, right? When somebody is about to lose it and the teacher takes the rest of the class out, right? Protects the rest of the class. Sometimes we take the kid out. Sometimes we do all kinds of different things, but that doesn't mean the fury isn't going to happen, right? So we're going to pick it up, though, in verse 19, the return. So we got the fleeing. Now we got the return. It says this in verse 19, "But when Herod died, behold, an angel of the Lord appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt, saying, 'Rise, take the child, his mother, and go to the land of Israel, for those who sought the child's life are dead.' Then he rose, and he took the child and his mother and went to the land of Israel. But when he heard that Archelaus was reigning over Judea in place of his father Herod, he was afraid to go there. Being warned in a dream, he withdrew to the district of Galilee. And he went, lived in a city called Nazareth, so that what was spoken by the prophets might be fulfilled, that he would be called a Nazarene." So we look at this and say, again, Joseph and Mary get these, hey, an angel shows up, a dream happens, and hey, we're going to announce the birth of Jesus, right? An angel shows up, tells us to flee, right? Get out of here. That happens. Hey, now it's time to go back. Right? But again, we don't necessarily get to go back to the exact place that we were. Wanted to go back to Judea, maybe to Bethlehem, right? But he realized this isn't a safe place, right? Not a safe place. God put the parameters around this return in such a way that Joseph chooses, seemingly of his own, willingness and accord, he chooses to settle in an area in Galilee, in Nazareth, right? Again, it says so that prophecy could be fulfilled. God directing so that every single prophecy in the Old Testament was completely fulfilled, right? The chances of you going, running away to Egypt, coming back and landing in Nazareth are pretty slim. Probability, probably better to win the lottery, right? But Joseph chooses that. It's a part of a bigger picture. But God puts the parameters so that they're sent to the right place. God wants to do this in your life, right? I'm going to make the parameters so you can't just go back to who you were or where you were or what you were, right? I'm going to change it up so that you're protected, but so that we fulfill what God's plan for our life is. A lot of times we fight that. We want to go back to just the way it was. Right? But it's not probably going to be the way it is. Think of some of these people that have been, homeless because of the train derailments and some of the evacuation things. They go back and they find out that their house is gone in a mudslide or a fire, or they can no longer live there, or they can live there, but it's going to be forever changed, right? The soil is going to be different. The water is going to be different. There's a whole bunch of mud, right? Things around them have been burnt. Right? We don't always get to go back, right? When God says go back to the way that it was. I've seen this sometimes within churches. Sometimes God pulls some people out for a season, for a year or 2 or 10 or 15 years. And when they come back, if they're not careful, they assume they're coming back to the same church they left. And yet God has put growth in you. Jesus isn't a baby anymore when they return, nor is he too, right? We come back and things have changed. Things are different. People have moved forward, moved on. The parameters have changed. And now we're coming back and we've been prepared and prepped and we're ready to step in that moment, not the past. Right? God wants to reinsert us sometimes in moments, in places, right? For such a time as this, for things that we've been prepared for. If you could go back to some of the churches that I've been a part of in the past, I'd be a much better pastor now, right? See things totally different, be a much better leader, be a much better congregant, right? But we need to understand that sometimes God sends us back but not to the exact place, not to the exact point. Everybody else has moved forward. Things have changed. But God's trying to fulfill his purpose and his plan. So we want to make sure that we're obedient, right? We're obedient to flee when we need to flee, but we're obedient to go back when we need to go back. Sometimes we step out of a situation and then God says, now go back. Now you got a better perspective. Now you're mature. Now you've grown, right? Now you've been gifted. Now you've been tooled or provided for, that this time it'll be different. So pray that you'll think about that for a few minutes. That you'll maybe give us some examples. How has that happened in your life? How have you seen God do that in your life? Right? That he told you to flee for a moment, then he brought you back to an area, but not the exact place, or maybe the exact place, but not the exact way. Give us some encouragement so that those who are going through it now will be, yeah, all right, we get this. We understand this. We'll see you next time. The Word expanded the Gospels.